Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. Hopefully, everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Welcome back. The station was closed last week, but we're glad to be back here in the station. What's up, Jamie Stams? How you doing? I see you there. Before I introduce my guest this week, the message of the week, and it comes on the tails of Thanksgiving and that idea. Hopefully, you had things to be grateful for. Hopefully, you gave some things. This is a quote from Simon Sinek. Do you know Simon Sinek? Are you familiar with him? We'll talk about him in a minute. I quote Simon Sinek a lot. He's a great motivational speaker and business mind. And he said, what we do for others has a direct impact on how we feel about ourselves. True. Something that, very true. Something that my guest today has, through her actions and her businesses and just her approach to life and attitude has made me think about a lot. Before we go any further, I'd love to introduce my business partner, a mentor, somebody I've always looked up to. Roll your eyes. It's true. Somebody that's had a big impact on me and taught me so many things, and we've grown together in a lot of ways. Jane Miller Rennert. Hello.
Hi.
How are you? Welcome.
I'm good. And we had a good Thanksgiving. We've had Thanksgiving. Yes. Our families have had Thanksgiving together for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years now. I'm not really
so
sure.
Many years that we got t-shirts this year.
Yes. We made t-shirts.
It was awesome.
It's true.
People's names on them. So it's legit now. It's a thing.
It's a thing with t-shirts.
It's really awesome.
Once you get t-shirts, it's forever memorialized.
Yeah. And that really speaks to the core of what I was opening with, is that we've got a good thing. It's not always been easy. There have been lots of challenges along the way. But an event, a holiday like Thanksgiving, if the opportunity is taken, you really get that sense of gratitude and being thankful for all the cool things that have happened, and hopefully find a way to give something. And you've always demonstrated that for me. I've just seen you do it on so many levels, that it was never about it was money was not your definitely not in the businesses that you've opened. No. We would have taken a different path. If it was all about money. But it's hard for me to pinpoint any one person that I've spent a lot of time with over the years that have demonstrated that for me more than yourself. So thank you.
Oh, sure.
You've given that to me, and my hope through this show and a lot of the things that I'm becoming involved with as of late, and hopefully will continue, is to give that same sense to people, to know that, obviously you need to make a certain amount of money. If you have a lifestyle you want to maintain, or just, bare essentials, you have to cover that. But if you can do that while chasing your passion, and if that's something you're passionate about, which it seems to me like you kind of can't operate any other way, if you can figure out a way to monetize that in a sustainable way, you should go for it.
Yeah.
Make the sacrifices. You may have to adjust a few things, and we'll listen. We'll hear throughout the course of the show today how Jane's worked that out. It's again through her actions. She's really been a big influence on me, and I've tried to mirror some of these things. So she's going to detail for us over the hour. We have time. We're going to take our time. We're going to make some jokes. We're going to make faces and laugh, and we'll get there by the end. So I want to start by having you just tell everybody first where you grew up. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in New York City, in Manhattan, on the Upper West Side, on 83rd and West End. And my father, he passed away last year, but he lived in the apartment I grew up in until then, and his wife, my stepmother, still lives there. So still a little bit of a connection to that neighborhood. But I didn't go to a neighborhood school. When I lived I went to Hunter College Elementary School and Hunter College High School. So across town, right, but it wasn't, and I had a lot of friends who did live in my community, but and the Upper West Side back then was like the way Brooklyn is, maybe Park Slope was, I don't know, 10 or 20 years ago or something. So, we're talking, I'm 50. So we're talking, I was born in 1969. So the 70s on the Upper West Side was sort of like the way Park Slope might've been in, I'm guessing, the 80s. Uh-huh. No, the like more
90s.
like the 90s or 2000s, I don't know. Anyway, it was more of a community. It was lots of small businesses.
Your mom grew up in Brooklyn, right?
My mom grew up in Brooklyn. And
she
was in Flatbush, but like Flatbush is a huge neighborhood. So she was sort of out towards Sheepshead Bay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And my dad grew up in the Bronx. And he really thought about he always throughout his life, like thought about the South Bronx was like his Valhalla. It was like absolutely what he loved, like this community that he had in the Bronx back then.
Yeah.
And his old neighborhood. And of course that neighborhood was destroyed in the 70s.
Yeah.
He took us back there once and there was not one person living on the block.
You were scared.
No, every building was burnt out.
Yeah.
There was no people.
I had a guest on the show a couple of weeks ago that grew up there in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
He's just, probably, right between our ages. And he was talking about it, and
it was burnt out.
Yeah, but then he's a very interesting figure too, because he found just like this light out of the whole place too. He was just one of those people that turned it into something really awesome.
Yeah.
And I've spent some time there too. Where
he grew up? I'm trying to remember the exact street. I want to say it was like 171st.
Yeah,
or something.
This is exactly what we're talking about. So Patty's roommate in college grew up on 171st and White between Jerome and Grand Concourse.
He grew up nearest to the Grand Concourse, but not as nice. Like he was on the other side of the tracks. Grand Concourse was the nice part.
Oh, really? Maybe when he was there.
Well, he was in the 30s and 40s. Yeah. I mean, he was born in 34.
So we used to hang out there starting in like the late 90s, and it was a special place. But Jose grew up there in the 70s, and him talking about it was like when stuff was real. Yeah. But he still managed to find that kind of same, he's like, this is South Bronx. That's where it's at.
He loved it. He loved it.
He lives in Brooklyn now.
Yeah, of course. And my mom, maybe a little more complicated relationship with her childhood.
Your mom's awesome.
So, but yeah, I mean, she grew up in Brooklyn, and yeah.
And your mom, she owned her own business at a certain point too, didn't she?
So, it's interesting. I would say from that. She did. She owned her own business at a certain point, and my stepfather has always worked freelance for himself, not necessarily as an entrepreneur with anything brick and mortar, but he's a writer and always worked for himself. So they are both entrepreneurial people. And it's interesting because I'm thinking about sort of entrepreneurship and following your passion and all of that you were talking about at the beginning. And it's interesting because none of the businesses that I've had are necessarily my passion in the terms of like, and I don't mean to say this in a weird way, but like wine is something that I love and I enjoy. It isn't my passion, and I had my own event planning business, which a good friend of mine still is operating. And so I love that part of the job. I loved doing that job, and working with her was amazing, and planning all the events and food and wine. But again, it's not like event planning is my passion exactly.
Right.
And at Della, I love good food, I love dining and all of that. But I think what my passion is figuring out where I fit into a community and doing something that enhances it, and I like to coordinate lots of different pieces of things, and I love starting things. Luckily I have you, because I don't necessarily love running and operating businesses for 10 years running, although I do certain things, that happen on the regular basis. But I've been lucky enough to meet you, and you
likewise
do like doing those kind of things. But
I do.
Yeah. So I think my passion is more about the creation of something that's for myself, but also for the other people in the community, and something that's really like a tether. So that was always the goal, like that's why when you say money was never the main goal, it's absolutely true. Like when we started Juice Box, of course we wanted to earn money. We didn't want to lose money. Same with Della, but it was always the intention of being like a neighborhood staple. Of being a place where people could go in the neighborhood. I mean, we put a playhouse in a liquor store, for goodness sake,
which is still there.
Which is still there. It probably needs to be rebuilt or something.
Maybe a little upgrade.
But and same with Della. Like, of course, you want to have a great restaurant that people want to come to, but I wanted it to be a place where the neighborhood felt comfortable and the kind of place where I would want to go.
Right.
You know, walking distance from where I lived, and that was always the part of it. And same, you know, and really same with everything else that we've done. You know, starting back with with TB Ackerson was a little bit different because we were really recruited to that neighborhood,
right?
By the community, by
Ross and Eileen.
Well, no, actually, so by Jan Rosenberg, who Jan Rosenberg is an amazing person who lives in Ditmas Park, and she started it was like the business community for Flatbush, Friends of Cortellia Road.
Right.
And she did it to bring sort of small businesses that would be of interest to that area to Cortellia. And she did it. And I forget how we got to know her, but she was like,
her name sounds familiar. I can't.
Yeah, you've met Jan Rosenberg. There's no question you haven't. And so Jan, if you happen to stumble upon this, and so she reached out to us and said, you know, I heard you're interested in opening a wine store. I think we'd love to have one on Cortellia Road. She introduced us to the landlord. Mm-hmm. She introduced us around to the other community, people in the community. And we were really, you know, part of, you know, there were a few new businesses.
Well, that was kind of a revival time for Cortellia.
Right at that moment. Like there was the Farm on Adderley opened a little bit before we did.
Right. And the picket fence was open already.
Picket fence was already open.
And I was working there.
Right. There was that trailer park, the store that opened a little bit after.
The trailer park.
Yeah, it was a cool store.
And we can't forget Vox Pop.
Vox Pop was there. That's right. Sander. So we were like part of this little business community that started, and it was really like these pieces fit together. There was like all of us were doing sort of different things, and we really supported each other.
And it's exciting too.
And it was really, really fun. It was a tiny little place. I'm sure you remember it well, like 400 square feet. And I think, you know, we did a great, you know, building that business was so much fun. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to represent the community. We named it TB Ackerson because
TB Ackerson knew why the name.
Yeah. So TB Ackerson was, you know, all those beautiful houses in Ditmas Park.
Of course.
So there were a few developers who designed and built those houses, and TB Ackerson was one of them. And then, funny enough, people I know on Long Island and Fire Island, there is an Ackerson Realty in Bayshore, which is TB Ackerson's descendants. Oh, wow. Yes. And we know people in common. Mm-hmm. So they know that we named the store after their, whatever it was, grandfather, uncle, I don't know who he was, to them now. And we named the store after them, and it was interesting. So I haven't met them, but I could figure out a way to do that.
And the other thing that you spend a lot of time doing is incorporating the community in your business names. You go out of your way to identify with your community by looking into the history, things like that, understanding you know, where people are coming from, and really foundationally what's a part of the community, not just what's on the surface, really trying to get inside of that. And I think, you know, not everybody loves that and not everybody puts that time in, but it always impressed me. I was always really,
it was important. And in TB Ackerson, we actually made an effort to have we went out and we found like these Victorian light fixtures, and
so it represented the era.
And some other sort of details.
You have a very good eye for that, fortunately, because I'm like,
this is where we balance each other out a little bit. I'm
like, lights? Do we have to have lights? What about just like regular light bulbs?
Just have a bulb. Like,
you're like, no.
So that was one of the things we did. We've since sold that business to people in the community who live right near there, and they've moved it down the block, and it's Kings County Wines, and they seem to be doing great, and very happy for them. And, you know, so that was nice too. So when we handed that business off, we didn't just, you know, it went to people who also were invested in that community.
And we're going to carry on the legacy.
And we're going to carry it on, and they're doing their own thing. I didn't expect them to, it's not a shrine to what we did, and it needed to be upgraded a little at that point. But But yeah, I'm really happy that it's like kind of stayed in the hands of, people who really care about the neighborhood.